You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Time to fire up the VCR. This one's my favorite. That was gold.
Welcome to Analog Jones and the Typical Film. I'm Steve.
And I'm Matt.
And this week we're going through the last Amityville, which is actually a remake of the first Amityville. But we need someone to come back in our journey of watching all this franchise. She's our bookends of the beginning and end of this franchise. Ashley, welcome back for Amityville 2005.
Houses here are way out of our price range. When the business is good, we're going to have the greatest house.
It's beautiful. This is an amazing house. You are going to love it.
Holy. This is the deal of a lifetime. So, what's the catch?
There was a crime, a murder. In the house? Several people, a family.
The accused claims he heard voices coming from within the house.
Well, houses don't kill people. To a perfect house and to a perfect family.
Who are you talking to?
The girl who lives in my closet.
And what's her name?
Jody.
What's the matter?
Just seeing things, I guess. Why don't you come back to bed?
I can't sleep. This is my mind.
There was a family lived here some time ago. They had a similar problem.
I'm living in their house. We need to get out of here. Just pack up and go.
Everything we have is in this house.
It's okay, Mommy. Jody won't hurt you. But the man who lives here, he says he's bad.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here for this film.
Yes. And did you work out as much as Ryan Reynolds to get ready for this film?
I have never been more shredded in my life. Following specifically his routine of extreme axe chopping.
Oh, yes. And being very violent towards kids without actually hitting them.
Yes. Forcing them to hold the logs while I chop ferociously.
I know that kid. I was like, yeah, man, I'd be afraid too. I'd get out of there, kid. Woo. He is
I feel
terrifying.
The most for that child, as I'm sure we will get into.
Yeah, there's a difference between him and Brolin. Brolin, I felt, was like being eaten from the inside. He was like, his eyes were blackened and he was really gross. He's intimidating because he's bigger. There's something different about Ryan Reynolds. Not only is he shredded, but the way he talks is so intimidating.
Oh, yeah. I think it's crazy. It's how it's a reboot in a way because there are subtle differences between the two. Yeah, I think his characterization plays it a little differently. Like Brolin was that classic, like, I don't know, just manly man, like carpenter. It was very community based, whereas like Ryan Reynolds in this one is very much just like, hey, he's the sweet kind of stepdad-ish figure, and then he's an absolute psychopath.
Yeah, he does a really good job of turning. I thought it was very convincing. I thought both of the performances by Brolin and Reynolds were convincing, but I just like Ryan Reynolds' like twist a little bit more. But part of me wonders if that's because I've seen him be so goofy for so long.
He can play dark, and it shows here. And he's scary. And I agree with you guys. It's a different kind of scary. And I think it is because you're so disarmed by the beginning, too, with how nice and how good he is with those kids and stuff like that. And he's funny guy, Ryan Reynolds, still at the beginning. And then, yeah, in a relatively short movie, he turns pretty quickly or pretty hard in that halfway point in the movie.
I do enjoy that the decision, rather than like you were talking about Brolin's, like he looked hauntingly ill, like pale and hollowed eyes and everything like that, like those classic tropes. Whereas the Ryan Reynolds one, this is more of a gory film because it's in that 2000s era when movies were just a little bit bloodier, a little bit skeezier kind of. But his eyes are like bloodshot, gross red the entire time, like blood vessels. It's unsettling to look at him when he is in those moments.
Yeah, even his eyes were working out.
They got too swole.
Yeah. The one thing I always remember about this is how like mid 2000s the VHS and DVD cover was.
It's like floating heads of Ryan Reynolds and Melissa George floating in the air and like
over the house, right?
Yeah, over the house, of course. Yeah,
it's all red, right?
Yeah, and
nice.
all red. But it's beyond just this cover. This movie is so cover, movie itself, advertising for it, like it's so 2005, and I love that. This is one of my favorite eras of horror movies, is the early to mid 2000s. So this fits right in, and it does feel like definitely part of that kind of Saw Hostel era.
Oh yeah, it's everything like the Platinum Dunes was redoing, Amityville Horror, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's funny because we differ so much. This is one of my, I guess some of the 90s is my least favorite of the horror franchise or the horror time period. 80s is more mine and yours is more mid 2000s. So that's kind of funny because a lot of these I just skipped because this was the time period of like, we were churning everything out to be redone. And just get on the assembly line. Let's make some money off these. And I understand that from a business standpoint, but from a viewer standpoint, I was like, oh God, over and over. But they were doing that shit in the 80s too. So, whatever. As long as some of them are enjoyable. It's horror movies. Don't take them too seriously. Just have some fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of the, the movies like the Saws and the Hostels and Texas Chainsaws kind of have gone on to become cult classics or whatever from this time period. And this one, it doesn't really get talked about as much, but it does absolutely fit in. And I'm glad you mentioned like Platinum Dunes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because this movie's almost kind of modeled after that Texas Chainsaw remake with the opening of like the true crime footage, and then we kind of get the story, and then it's bookended by the end part with the crime footage. So it does feel like it was modeled after the way they did that Texas Chainsaw remake.
Yeah, but we didn't get a lot of butt cams.
We didn't do the 70s butt shots like Texas Chainsaw did. But we get a lot of Ryan Reynolds shredded like abs.
I think it's a sexy movie. I would say that this is like a sexy horror movie, kind of.
Yeah, it's not super graphic or whatever, but yeah, like Melissa George.
I think it highlights their sexual energy. Yeah. And that kind of comes across with like the Brolin and
Kidder.
Kidder dynamic, because it's like, they're hot and fresh and like functioning, and then they move in this house and it's just like the absolute opposite of who they are. Mm-hmm. So it's like the sexy is immediately taken away, especially when you have ghost children watching you bone your lady.
That's much worse than the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want hanging dead kids, ghost children, mouth agape looking at you.
She's like, what's wrong? And then he's just like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm like, dude, you just saw a little ghost girl hang herself. Like, you clearly cannot continue in this mindset. In this
Take 5.
Intimate moment.
Take 5 after that. And maybe let her know that you're seeing shit like that.
He just immediately is like, I don't feel well.
It's like, you look like you don't feel well.
No one feels well after that. Let's describe, well, we've already described the front. It's red, we got the floating heads, but we have from the top here, from Michael Bay, the producer of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Amityville Horror. It's red. The lights are coming out from the classic windows, the front of the house, which we have on 2/3 of these movies. We get what happened over the next 28 days has never been explained. Okay, yes, it has. A lot. Okay, we've got books.
Eight times prior, and a bunch of books and a bunch of TV specials.
That was one thing right when I saw this cover. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, if it would have been like, you're not going to believe what happened in 28 days in this house or something like that. Of course it's been explained. Like, way too much. Whatever.
It's never been explained like this.
I guess we do get kind of like an origin story of the house with this one that we don't get in the other one with the Ketchum character. So maybe that's what they're referring to.
It is more historical in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes beyond the DeFeo.
Right. Which is pretty much where all the other movies kind of had stopped.
Yeah, this movie felt like it was trying to connect you to the characters more. Because, showing DeFeo's face at the beginning, going through the house, shooting the characters. In the first one, you just kind of get muzzle shots and it's all black. This one, it seems like Ryan Reynolds is being nicer to the kids. I felt more connected to the characters in this one, while the first one was more of like a spooky house. We're telling it through the house's eyes.
Yeah.
That's how I felt the differences were on this. And we'll describe what we like better when we get into this film. But, of course, we got to have based on a true story at the bottom.
That was all the rage in this time.
Let's get into the back here. We've got a terrific scare show from Kevin Thomas? Los Angeles Times. Yeah, it's Kevin Thomas. Almost said Thompson. From Michael Bay, the producer of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, comes the true story of Amityville. In November 1974, a family of 6 was brutally murdered. Now, a year later, an unsuspecting young couple, George Lutz, which is played by Ryan Reynolds of Blade Trinity, The In-Laws, and Kathy Lutz, which is Melissa George from TV's Alias, and their children move into the house that was the site of the horrific event that is now haunted by a murderous presence. What follows is 28 days of unimaginable terror. With demonic visions of the dead and relentless screams of terror, this is the haunted house story that just isn't a movie. It's real! It's got flies on it, which, the flies are back. A terrific scare show, but with the house underneath it has the kid, and then it has Get Out in it, with Ryan Reynolds being, sexy and terrifying.
At the same time.
Yeah, it's 2 pictures. They've got one where he's sexy scary, and they've got one where he's just scary. And I'm like, they are really playing up Ryan Reynolds here. And kudos to them. They knew he was going to be a star. I just think it was written all over it.
Yeah, he's already a star. I remember, this is special to me. I don't know if I talked about this in the first one, because I was like, I gotta come back for the Ren one, because he was like one of my biggest crushes growing up. I remember first seeing him in Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. And I just thought he was a little dreamboat. And then he became this hilarious comedy god who happened to be pretty ripped. And then Blade Trinity happened, which it's good that it mentions that on the back, because that's clearly the reason he's so shredded in this, is all of that intense prep for a superhero movie, basically.
Yeah, I think the 2 of them came out 6 months apart.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then he went on to do Smokin' Aces, which I thought he looked great in as well. He just pulls it off very well.
Yeah, he's the full package.
He is.
He's funny, he can do drama, he can be ripped, he can, whatever you want. He just can do it. He's got that Brad Pitt appeal.
Yeah, he's got it. And that's why he's lasted. That's why he's Deadpool. That's, why he can command roles in Hollywood.
That's why he got to be Deadpool 2 different times. Yes. He's like, no, I understand that was unacceptable. Let me do it right, because I know you want to see me do it right. And we're all like, yes, forgiven, please do it right.
And then we got 2 movies of that.
With Brolin, baby.
Yeah, with Brolin.
It's amazing to me. He has been in 3 superhero films that people as a whole do not like. You have the X-Men Origin Wolverine. You have where he played Deadpool. You have him in Green Lantern, which people can't stand. And you have him, like you said, in Blade 3, Blade Trinity, which a lot of people cannot stand. And it kind of killed the Blade franchise.
Completely wrong. Blade Trinity is wonderful.
Blade Trinity is a trash masterpiece. It's wonderful.
Mark Posey's in that.
Triple H is in that.
Triple H. Dominic Purcell. These are A-list names in Hollywood.
Well, he can do all 3 of these and then come back and just be a superstar in Deadpool.
Oh, yeah.
He must walk into a room and people are like, whatever you want, bud.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But he stays humble about it.
I know, and that's the thing about him too, is he's so fun. Like, he just does a bunch of weird stuff online, you know, where he does it for so little money because he's just like, that sounds fun. Well, we can't pay you much. I don't care. I'm rich. I don't care.
That's why it is so upsetting to see, like, he's the fun guy. And like you said in the very beginning of the movie, he has like this close connection with one of the kids, the older son, who's like probably like 12, 13. He's really struggling with like the idea of a new father figure. And then by the middle point in the movie, I'm sure he was like, wow, I should have gave him a chance when he was a nice guy.
Yeah.
Because that house ravages this man's mind.
Putting the tape in here.
Now available on video and DVD.
We got a lot of trailers, so I'm just going to fly through this. We've got The Legend of Zorro from 2005.
Excellent.
We've got Fun with Dick and Jane, 2005.
remakes.
Yeah. I think I've seen the Fun with Dick and Jane one time, and I think I was done.
Me too. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it.
I thought it was fine, but I never wanted to see it again.
Which means it's not fine. It's just boring.
It's a one and done.
It's a one and done. I've seen it. I'm not mad about it, but I'm not going back for more.
This is one I forgot about, Into the Blue.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
I love these, like...
sweaty.
Yeah, these wet 2000 summer kind of movies that typically feature Jessica Alba and Paul Walker, I guess. I love these kind of movies. I haven't seen Into the Blue, though, probably since the 2000s, so it'd be fun to go back and revisit.
There seemed like there were a lot of surfer movies in the mid-2000s. Like some type of surfing or swimming.
Yes.
Deuce Bigalow, European Gigolo.
Never see it.
I think I've seen this one and I really didn't like it. I liked the first one okay, but then I saw this one and I was like, no, this isn't working anymore.
Oh, here's one that apparently didn't work. I've never seen, but Stealth.
I hated this movie when this came out. I thought this movie was so stupid.
It's I've heard a lot of bad from this.
Yeah, it's a stinker.
It's kind of like a Michael Bay ripoff film in a way, like put people in a plane or something.
The military stealth bomber and hot action stars from the time. It's very fake, very manufactured.
The Amityville Horror Collection DVD set. This is one actually I have. The first 3 Amityville movies and the bonus disc that has kind of like a documentary on it.
Out of the million releases that these movies have had, I remember this one.
So many releases of these. And then we had MGM Home Entertainment DVDs. And then last we have Kung Fu Hustle from 2004, which I think is really underrated.
Yeah, I miss a lot of these, like, kind of Jackie Chan, this guy whose name I'm forgetting, that did the kind of the fun Kung Fu. I kind of missed all these, so...
Yeah, it's fun, goofy, very odd, and I don't think American audiences knew how to embrace it. I think it's got a nice little cult following now, but, you know, still not many people I know have seen it. All right, so let's get on to the feature presentation.
And now, our feature presentation.
So we start with, you know, the retelling of Robbie DeFeo killing his family again. I noticed Robbie DeFeo's actually got his hair combed in this one. I think they should have made him a little bit more disheveled, because when they show him in the documentaries and stuff, he's creepy. I don't think he's creepy enough in this one. I think he needs to creep him up a little bit.
He kind of looks like a Rob Zombie kind of, you know, that look, that kind of hippie long hair, Charles Manson, yeah, kind of look, but like, yeah, definitely a polished 2005 version of it.
I think they relied heavily through like the intense like jump cuts, like very Texas Chainsaw opening with this, where it was like telling us the story through that kind of like the news clippings and like the gunshots and the flashing lights and quick edits and everything. So I feel like I didn't even notice that he was that clean cut, because it was like very pop history kind of thing.
Yeah, flashes.
Yeah, it is that like. That's just what the studios were doing at that time for these reboots. They're like, ooh, these are the credits, and you've kind of seen this before.
Yeah, Friday the 13th does it, Texas Chainsaw does it. They all kind of do that kind of recap of the story you already know quickly with the MTV style editing.
And flashbulb sound.
And I love that stuff. I mean, that's my era of MTV, so like a little bit after, but still it's at my era of MTV, so I liked all this kind of quick cutting and stuff that like Saw kicked in the door with.
Yeah, I think Platinum Dunes, with their Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Amityville Horror, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I always remember the Polaroid sound. And when they're retelling it, I think they do that well because it's so much better than the Amityville Horror original credits where they just show a picture of the house for like 10 minutes while they do the opening credits. Oh, the 70s. Oh.
That's what
Little
they
different.
did the best.
Little different.
Just extend that runtime. That's why it was so nice to get the fast forward button from those old films. Fast forward.
This one doesn't need it. This one, beyond just the credits, I mean, this movie is like 89 minutes and it just flies by. Whereas the first one, if we're talking comparisons, the first one's over 2 hours or just under 2 hours. It's right around the 2 hour hover mark.
It's the 70s. That's what they did.
Yeah, it's longer, bigger. And obviously this was an event movie for the 70s, and for the 2000s, it was just kind of that week's horror movie. But there's a level of like, that one felt a little more prestige, bigger. It wasn't. It was an indie horror movie still, but like it felt like a bigger cultural thing. This one's 89 minutes. You're in, you're out.
I do kind of like enjoy this time period's like take on the reboot kind of aspect because it is faster. They're all pretty short. They're all like 90-minute films, and now we're getting a trend of reboot. I think we're kind of leaving it now, but we were just stuck in a reboot phase in the 2020s basically, and it was like 2+ hours. They're like, we want to give you more, and it's like, we don't want more.
Streamline it. Give us the best of.
Just give us yummy bites of it.
which I think works in a lot of these 2000s movies, the good ones. Like I think, like I said, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw. This one, I obviously like all of these, and they take into account, and I think it's tied to what we were just talking about with the credits. They take into account that as an audience, you've seen some of these movies before. You kind of know the story. So we're not going to fuck around and like give you 2.5 hours of, which I think is the reboots of today, where they're like, we're going to tell you the whole story all over again. At least these are in and out. And some of, my least favorite reboots from this time, like I think of like Halloween or The Fog, they just do the same thing, or they're too different or too, weird. These take into account, the series, and they're like, hey, here's the greatest hits of what you know, and then here's our story. Go.
Here's the CGI.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, what I always really disliked about this time period is like when they took it from a rated R film and made it a PG-13. Now, you got to watch like the Prom Nights I'm thinking about. And there's so many. At least this film kind of just like stayed with the same level, I would say. This one turned it up a notch because, of course, it's the 2005. Got to turn it up. The audience isn't going to accept slower and, more storytelling. We want to get to the action, which I think this movie does well. I noticed a lot of this one, they cut out the priest stuff, which I was thankful for.
I was actually surprised at how late he appeared in the film.
Yeah, it's very, very different from the first one where he almost shows up like right away in the first one.
It's like a traditional blessing versus where this one was like a last attempt.
Yeah, desperation.
It was a desperate, which I think makes more sense for the family because in the first one, I think there is a bigger discussion of like religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This one, it's kind of devoid of that, and it kind of feels like very fresh in the new millennia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're going to present your audience a priest blessing a house, I don't think a 2005 audience is going to buy that the same way that a 70s audience would buy that. So having it be, the desperation instead is better, and it leads it so that it's only like in the last half hour, and then the flies are crazy because they basically redo the fly scene, but it's way crazier and way bigger, and then it's fast and it's in and it's out, and we don't really need to deal with the priest, and we're not focusing on her grappling with religion like in the first one here, which is nice because I think that stuff kind of slows it down, and I hate religion stuff, so that's probably why it slows down for me. But I liked it not being in here, and the priest stuff, you sort of just kind of get a greatest hits scene with him.
Yeah, I was really happy with that because in the first one, with the priests going blind, and it was really weird how none of them were really religious, but yet it seemed like this blessing of the house was important. This one, it's just kind of like a Hail Mary. Like, we don't know what to do. Maybe this guy can help, which he doesn't. Thanks a lot, God.
It's also interesting that, like, now I'm really remembering the first one. We really are taken out of the house a lot. We are taken to the priest. We are taken to that wedding for a little bit. Like, we are the bar, the community. He's talking to people that work for him and everything. This movie, it really is just about the family and how the dynamic changes. And I think that works effectively for them. That's how they're able to be quick with it. And it feels more intense, and it feels like there is a bigger threat because it's literally watching someone without any breakaways change drastically. And then you get one dinner out and see him kind of be normal again. So you know that it's the house.
Yeah, it being singularly focused in the house and with the family makes it so you, the audience, are along for the ride with them. And I think it makes it almost scarier because, you're watching this stepfather, go crazy, and you're not seeing sort of other people's opinions of it. It's just you're watching it happen with this family. So it feels like you're part of it. And I think that makes it, again, maybe not that anything was wrong with the 70s way of doing it, where things were maybe more I think it's just for the time, for 2005, we're viewing it as the family insularly or whatever. So it's sensibilities for the time. We weren't super into religion. We weren't so much community based anymore in 2005. It was more you're on your own kind of thing. So I think it's just, again, it's not that one's better than the other. It's just sort of like, I think this movie is tuned more into the time.
Also, I think the first one was kind of like trying to be faithful to the book. And that's why it's more kind of like just, you're more concentrating on the whole story of what happened. And this one, we're like, the book was forever ago. Let's concentrate on the family because we want to see the characters experience this. We don't want to see like the community.
I'm curious. I really should have read the book because I said I was going to do it in between and I completely forgot. But was the Ketchum thing included in the book at all? Like the historical, like what basis is that? Do we know?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Nope.
So I don't know if they just added it, but I thought it was a good little detail to have kind of like a specific figure other than DeFeo.
Yeah, because the movie does. I don't remember how much it goes into it, but the first movie does mention sort of the Indian burial grounds type storyline, and in this one we meet the Ketchum character who is literally slaughtering and experimenting on Native Americans in his basement, and that is the burial ground. So that's like a further, taking it one step further. But yeah, I would wonder too if that was mentioned at all in the book.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because in the first film, 79, it's just a red room.
Yes.
This one you go down, and it's like a full torture basement. They expanded it quite a bit. I do not know what's in the book. The one big difference in this, I'll shift to, that I do know, is in the book, it was a red-eyed pig that I think Jody had taken the figure of, or the house had taken the figure of. I don't quite know. But in this one, they made it a little girl. That was interesting. I think it actually works better as the little kid because, it's pretty goofy to think about a red-eyed pig mutant thing. How are you going to pull that off and actually not have the audience laugh? Pretty tough.
I think it is kind of like an outdated fear-based thing, like of the 70s. It's like, well, the temptation comes through all of these like demonic figures, and so like I feel like swine and like livestock. Livestock is such a huge thing, like represented in like religious battles basically, and so livestock is usually seen as demonic. So like that's what I think heightened the audience then. But yeah, it just doesn't really translate to like kids in the 2005. They're like, what's with these pigs?
Yeah, exactly. Like the creepy pig monster thing we kind of see at the end of the 70s one. Again, that's more what a 70s audience is going to be like. Oh, Satanic Panic. They're going to be like, whoa, that is like the face of Satan or whatever.
It's scarier that like it's a little girl who another little girl is like, oh, I can trust this other girl like me, and that is the biggest threat.
Yeah, we have more sort of like a physical manifestation of ghosts in this one. You know, in the 2005, when the sensibilities were like of like the Asian ghost story movies like The Ring and Grudge and stuff like that, we want to see the ghosts. Now we don't want to see sort of, this pig monster thing or this goat monster thing or whatever representative of devil evil. We want to see the demons. We want to see the ghosts. So yeah, we see Jody, and then we also see Ryan Reynolds literally sees like the faces of demons appear on all the kids, and at the end his wife and everything, and that's what he's like trying to shake away that he's seeing them, and that's what he wants to chop them up for, because he keeps seeing their faces turn demonic.
Who wouldn't want to chop that up? Get away from me, demon-faced people.
Yeah, I just think that's more, again, playing more into the time. I think it was just more 2005 way to handle it.
We were hardcore. We need to see the evil.
Yeah, exactly. Make these people's faces warp demonic. We don't want representations of the evil. Let's just see the evil.
Another thing that's like made up for both movies that isn't even in the book is the babysitter. Now in the 70s version, they had the babysitter, with like, she looked like a typical teenager, had like, I think braces on or whatever, and then gets caught in the closet. And I don't really remember what happens in the closet from the 70s one, but this one,
it's very similar.
We get the demon girl, and then she shoves the babysitter's finger into the like bullet hole. And that was nasty.
It was pretty gross and intense. And I'm like, good job for that. I believe the original one, she gets stuck in there and it's kind of like alluded to. We don't get to see on the other side of that door. And that girl comes out catatonic. Like, she is like, it's over. And she scratched, I remember there were like fingernail clawing trying to get out. And that was the main thing that they informed us. Whereas, in this one, you get to see a really disgusting, disturbing moment for the babysitter, who I thought was hilarious. You just smoking a bong, a little bubbler in the
hitting
bathroom.
on a little kid, flirting with him just because she's bored. I really like the babysitter section of this movie. I think this is one of the things that makes this movie stand out, is this section, because it's a little fun, it's a little playful, but then it gets crazy dark. And not only is she putting her finger in this child bullet wound in her head, which is gross enough, but this babysitter used to babysit that girl too. Yeah. So there's this extra level of she knows her and she's doing this gross thing. So it's double, traumatic for her. And I thought that was a really cool ending to like what I thought was like a really fun section of the movie.
I did roll my eyes when they brought on the girl, what she was dressed as. I go, oh, of course we have to do this. We had to have that trailer moment where you have a hot girl in it.
The smoking hot babysitter.
I was like, wow, she's really dressed up to babysit, but okay, whatever.
It's the 70s. It's crazy.
It's also produced by Michael Bay. I mean, you can't have normal people in most of his movies. They have to be manufactured off the line. Now, this actress gone on to have one hell of a career. She's done a lot, Rachel Nichols. So
I recognized her.
Yeah. I mean, she's been in a lot. If you just look at her credits.
In our Amityville Connection thing, she's in P2, which the director of Amityville Awakening did. So there's our Amityville Connection thing.
Got it. Fine. That we're just making a giant string diagram where all these
tapestry.
Crazy psychotic web on the wall.
I don't know if there are a lot of other differences between the last movie and this that we haven't discussed. I don't think they do the upside down cross in this at all.
It's represented, I think, in the doorknob.
The doorknob when the priest is there, which is that trailer shot where the door slams closed and it turns really quick. Looks like the ghost house logo.
At the very end, like once they flee the house, it resets.
Yeah.
The doorknob resets to its normal thing, and then the little, it's
the
like
stupid 2005 ending.
Yeah. They love to do like a little
one last scare.
It's like silent scream and then disappear. It's one of those. But I think the upside down cross is like only represented in the doorknob, which I think it's a cool little ornate detail, but So it's like we're giving a little kiss to religion. We're not doing the full thing.
We're not digging deep into the character's struggle with religion. It's just sort of kind of there.
The one thing I think I've noticed a lot between this one and the 79 one is the little girl who keeps like just wandering off into weird places. I don't remember that in the first one at all.
I think it's like the more kids as a collective in the first one, and whereas in this one we get individual personalities of the kids because we're with the middle boy alone when he tries to pee in the middle of the night, and that's terrifying for a kid, like that voice talking to him and a person chasing him in his house.
That red-eyed demon that's in the house is terrifying too.
Is it like it's like burned or skinned?
Yeah,
like is it some kind of effect where it's very like red and demonic looking? And I think the makeup work of that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's like the scariest demon, the one that kid has to encounter.
Like that poor little kid.
Then you got Chloe Moretz climbing on the tops of the building, and she's gonna like jump off, and then you got the other kid that's getting like abused by him, and he's like the one that is unsure of if he wants to have this guy in the family, and now really getting tortured because of it. And that kid's gonna have some serious therapy after all this, which I think that kid did need serious in real life. That kid did need some serious therapy.
Yeah, I'm curious of what like the relationship is like 10 years later between that stepfather figure and that kid, because like he is a new teenager. He knows a little bit, but he's a little snotty about some stuff. But then like it gets so severe.
Yeah.
Very fast. And I'm like, wow, I think it just really puts more of a focus on the kids and the family. Whereas, the first one, I pretty much only remember Josh Brolin and Kidder, like
James Brolin.
James. So sorry.
I know they look exactly the same now at this point, but
it's the J names. They throw me every time.
Yeah, it is. It's totally more the focus of the two of them, with the kids sort of being a collective, whereas this one spends time individually with the hauntings of the different kids.
Yeah, I mean, from the first one, the only kid thing I remember is the kid getting his fingers or hands slammed into the window. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, this one, they're like definitely trying to like, isn't it creepy that these things are happening to the, the kids also? And yeah, like you said, giving them actual characteristics and, their faces. I don't even know the faces of any of the kids from the first one, so
I can't. I've been trying to think of a single one of them, and I can't think at all. Are there 3 kids in the first one?
I don't even remember.
I remember more about the priest in the first one than I do about the kids. That's
because he was way more of a focus.
And I mean, that was kind of like telling too, because I didn't even like the priest, but I'll never forget his face. The kids, gone.
Yeah, they're absolutely. Well, I just think like kid actors sometimes, if it's an ensemble movie, they're not given a ton of attention. Whereas like in the 2000s, kid actors were like
getting better. Yeah,
they like
better actors.
Think about it, like Chloe Moretz. I cannot.
Chloe Moretz.
Well, this little girl, like she's still acting.
Yeah, exactly. So she obviously was pretty good.
And she had a name, and like I did look up the other kids. Like I recognized the other 2 as kid actors, and I think some of them went on to do more like voice acting work and stuff. So like they're still industry, like they didn't just abandon it. But I do think in the 2000s, like the perspective went more towards like the kid, because it's scarier from a kid's perspective.
Yeah, I think a movie like this was probably more effective on me. I was 15 when this movie came out, and this kid's supposed to be 12. So obviously I've got a connection now as a viewer when I'm watching this to that kid, and that's my then perspective watching the movie. So it's this R-rated movie, but like for younger audiences that we're seeing these horror movies at this time, we also have a perspective shown in the movie, and I think that was another success.
Let's get on to the rain scene. I think that's what most people remember from this. I mean, it's the perfect trailer spots and everything. Ryan Reynolds in his shirt with his muscles all showing, getting all crazy, and then his wife just straight up pops him in the head. This ending to me is a lot better than the original, and not so much because it's just a little bit more dramatic and everything. It's because I was connected to the characters more.
Yeah, I think it's a really it's just really well paced, I think. Like the whole thing and then leading up to this big showdown kind of. It's intense. You have the weather against you, you have the house against you, you have your partner against you and your entire family. He goes nuts. Yeah, he's evil, but then I can't even remember the order of it now because the kids were on that roof too many times. I'm like, kids, just please get off the roof. That is so scary. Like them crawling on the roof in the rain and they can't see. And then the kid knocks Ryan Reynolds off the roof.
Anytime like a kid's on a roof or anything like that, I'm having a heart attack.
Anxiety.
Like, please get off. I don't care what you do. You can be a jerk. Just get off the roof.
Yeah, you have no coordination. You're a baby. Please stop.
There are more stakes in this finale than the other one, and I think like you were saying, everything is working against them, particularly like with the weather and the haunting. So there's more stakes with the ending, so I think it does make it more exciting and scarier and a more hopeless feeling too. It's like if they don't get on this boat, they're done. That dog's already dead.
Yeah.
Which did they do in the original?
Yeah,
they killed the dog. Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
And
in the 70s, no dogs survived. Ever.
I also wondered if too the vision that Ryan Reynolds has where he hits the axe into Melissa George and then kind of or is that her vision? One of them has like a vision of that happening and then it cuts to back to reality and then they get out or whatever. I wondered if that was like part of like an alternate ending where they were like, fuck it, we're gonna kill some of these people.
That would be insane for him to try and get custody of those children
after axing her. I
don't. Does anyone die no one dies, do they?
No, they all escape. Except for the dog.
The dog does not make it. The dog is pretty fucked up too. It's pretty brutal.
I honestly thought it was like really, because in the first one I believe he does, but I think it's more of like an alluded to. I can't fully remember. This one's sad when he kills that dog. When he picks up that, he didn't realize it was the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Because you see, I think it's smart that this one kind of shows his delusions to us.
Yeah.
And so it's even more sad and heartbreaking when he like kind of has a moment after he kills that dog where he is like, I'm going crazy. And he's like crying, like holding the bloody thing. But then the next day he's like paranoid and fucking crazy.
Yeah,
again.
yelling at everybody again.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get on to the very end where they have to do the crazy little 2005. They did this back in the 80s too, where you have to get that last scare. That was, I forgot about that. And when we discussed this from the first Amityville Horror review way back, half a year ago or whatever, when I saw it on this one, I was like, oh God, that really is bad.
Yeah, it's like I can defend and talk about the 2005 stuff all day long because I love so many of these movies. But like it is inexcusable some of these stupid endings that these movies had to be like this. And I don't mean necessarily the ending. If you've never seen this movie, we're talking like the last the 30 seconds of this movie. The ending of this movie, like with the climax with the rain and them getting out, is pretty good, I think. But I'm talking about like the last 30 seconds, your little epilogue or whatever punch that you get at the end. So stupid. And they did this all the time.
You have your ghost girl that has been throughout this entire house and manipulating the whole family. It's just the little ghost girl standing in the middle of the thing. And then does she scream?
Yeah, she screams and gets pulled through the floor.
And then she gets pulled through the floor with ghost hands coming out. And then like the little teddy bears just left or whatever. And I just think that became such a huge thing in the 2010s.
Yeah, they took it.
Blumhouse was like, we have to end every movie with a silent, stagnant shot, a scream, and someone being pulled off screen.
Yes, it's either the evil coming towards camera or, being pulled off screen. Blumhouse still loves this ending, and they've carried this from the 2000s, and it didn't work then, and it still doesn't work now. They're so stupid. The only one I liked, I think, was Sinister when they did the kind of boo scare with Mr. Boogie, but then they did it in Sinister 2 again, and it was stupid.
You can't double down on that. You only get one of them.
You only get one good one, yeah.
Oh, will they ever learn? Nope.
I don't think they will. I just think it's like impossible for them to learn. And it doesn't really do anything for the movie, because if you think of the original Amityville, we talked about it. It's pretty abrupt of an ending. Like, they literally drive away and
they get in the car and they go.
We don't even get to see their reactions in the car. The car is gone and the credits roll.
Yeah.
And so this one, they get away on the boat this time. So it's a little different. I think the boathouse is featured more, because I was thinking that the boathouse was featured more in the original. And then when we watched it, I was like, no, that's totally the Ryan Reynolds version. But like, they get away on the boat, and it really takes a second to like zoom into everyone's face and like breathe. And then they return to the house and have the little scream. And I'm just like, it doesn't add anything to it. We know that the house is evil.
Mm-hmm.
And are we supposed to feel for this little girl? Because this little girl was trying to kill the other little girl. It's a little complicated.
Yeah, I just think the creepy ghost girl got so popular because of The Ring that they, I mean, it kind of feels like they stuck this in it because of The Ring.
Yeah. And all the creepy ghost girls look like The Ring. They look very tired, very pale, wettish kind of stringy hair. It is like, I mean, The Ring messed my life up for a while. So I understand, but I don't fear this girl, you know? So like, it's not necessary to end it with that.
I call them the Blumhouse endings now because they're the only ones still doing it and they're still doubling down on it. These endings, it was just very of the time. And the ghost girl was very of the time. Mm-hmm. It's just for better or worse, you know, we got all the good stuff, I think, from the time with the pacing of the movie and the gore and sort of the family perspective. Yeah, great effects. I think KMB did the effects for this one. Great gore effects. We've got all these pluses, but we got to take the the minuses too from the time.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, do little girl ghosts like not have blow dryers? I mean, it's bad enough being a ghost, but do you have to be wet? Like, have wet hair the entire time?
Is it like the ectoplasm?
I don't know. I think like the in-between world is just misty. Maybe.
Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Like the humidity's really high in the air. It's got that misty feeling. That is their entire life. That's terrible. I'm sorry, ghosts.
Yeah. Oh, I have like asthma and stuff, like too much humidity, and I'm just gonna be like wheezing all over the place. I can't get a thing done. I can't haunt someone in those conditions. Are you kidding me?
I'm just imagining you behind me, and you're like, I'm like, I can hear you. Ashley, I can hear you. You're like, you're not sneaking up on me. You're like, it's not my fault.
It's my labored breathing this is awful. I can't do this as a ghost.
Ghost plane is so sticky.
Oh, it would be my nightmare. I'm like, I feel like I'm in fucking Florida right now. The humidity is awful. And my hair looks like trash.
I mean, that's where all the old people are in Florida. Is Florida the in-between world? I don't know.
Oh, it's too hot. I don't want to go down there. I just can't deal with the in-between world. I can't do it.
I can't. I just simply could not.
I just want to go to hell, and I guess that's Arizona, where it's just pure hot.
It's heat. You know, I'm down for hell if it's a dry heat.
Yeah. My hell would be like a wet heat. Yeah, I don't do well with that.
Maybe don't verbalize that so they don't take notes of that.
Too late. It's on podcast format. We're done.
It's forever.
Okay, let's end this review on this one, and let's pop on over to the museum.
This is the second time I've had to reclaim my property from you.
That belongs in a museum.
So do you.
This is the part of the show where we go out in the film jungle like Indy and bring something back to our Amityville wing of the museum, which is enormous. It's too big. We can't contain it. We have to create our own Amityville museum. I think that's how it is. We've got too much.
And we know the evil escapes. So it's going to be in any object we have.
Yeah.
That's why we can't have giveaways at this museum. It'll haunt everyone.
Yes. Not from the Amityville wing. That's under lock and key.
In fact, I think we just wrote another Amityville movie right there. We create an Amityville museum, someone steals one of the artifacts, and they are then haunted.
Guys, like, I think we should seriously take this conversation offline and, like, work on a screenplay. We should absolutely create this together, and people will be like, you know what? It's just wacky that I think it works. They got artifacts from all of them.
Okay, so I'll let the guests go first. Ashley, what do you have for the 2005 wing of the museum?
I think I have a pretty fun addition for this Amityville remake. It's going to be haunted refrigerator magnets. I would like to put those in because, you know, there's nothing spookier than coming in and being like, I didn't write that on the refrigerator.
I didn't write catch 'em and kill 'em on the refrigerator.
Yeah, but they're so cute and childlike. So it's a little bit conflicting when you see threatening messages in little child block letters. So I'm going to put some refrigerator magnets in the museum.
Got golf clap for very original.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I am very original.
Matt, what do you got?
I think I just got to put in the gore. This is like my what I was living on at the time. This was all I was ingesting was these kind of movies, and I was obsessed with how gory and stuff they all were at this time. And I think amping up the gore level in this one makes it more sort of relevant for the time and makes it kind of creepier for, again, the time. So the gore is the sort of thing that represents the modernization, I guess, of this movie, you know, making it a 2005 one. And I thought it was all really effective. And I think it was Canby that did all the effects for this. I think I don't do research, so I don't know. But I'm pretty sure they did.
It is a weak point for you.
I'm pretty sure they did. And they did a really good job. And I thought the movie was nice and gross in the parts where it needed to be. And some of the ghosties and goblins and demons looked pretty creepy in the movie. So I like the kind of effects in the gore.
So a bowl of goo. Nice.
Bowl of goo. Bowl of blood we're putting in there.
Yeah, when Ryan Reynolds gets sprayed by the blood in the torture room, that was a very good visual. Yeah.
Yes, it looks good. It's saturated.
Yeah, and he slits his throat and he sprays him. Yeah, it looks really cool.
In my part of the museum for this, I was really impressed with all the costumes. Ryan Reynolds was wearing at one point with the suede jacket, I think it was, or a tweed jacket. Is that what that is?
I think there was like
early on, I think it was a tweed jacket.
Tweed, and I think there was a lot of use of corduroy. There's a lot of textured like layers in it.
Yeah, textured costumes. That's what I would, because I remember the babysitter also with that, you know, get up that she had. And I mean, those pants were wearing her. I don't think she was wearing those pants. Yeah. And then of course it has to be highlighted with the drenched sweater that Ryan Reynolds is wearing at the end. Cause I mean, come on, that man literally sold 60, 70, 80% of the tickets.
I do just like think he could go in the museum. Because I could look at that all day.
Well, you're going to get a giant picture of it.
Excellent.
She's got the vapors, everyone. She needs to sit down.
Scrumptious. Yeah, no, I'm like wheezing in a corner, just like, look at that man. Look at him.
Well, luckily for you, I have the same body as Ryan Reynolds.
That is why I'm with you.
Luckily, you've got that going for you.
I was gonna say I'm gonna put a T-shirt together for you where it's Ryan Reynolds' body, and I'm just gonna poorly Photoshop Matt's face on it, and I'm like, that pretty much looks like Matt.
No, you should just get the body, and Matt will wear the shirt.
Oh,
so it looks like it's like one of.
But it's more like a bobblehead.
He's gonna push out the abs. It's gonna look wonderful. It's gonna look wonderful.
Oh my god, that's a great Halloween costume. Is Ryan Reynolds from Amityville, and we're gonna paint those abs on, baby.
Let's do it.
I mean, just accentuate your already
natural physique. That is exactly the same as his in this movie.
None of this is getting cut.
It shouldn't, because it's true.
We're only spouting facts here.
Yeah, pure gold. The last thing we'll end with is we're not going to do a full rankings of this. That'll take forever. There's like 800 films, even though we only did 10. But I will ask you, what is your most enjoyable? This mostly goes to Matt, because I know Ashley luckily didn't go through the full torture.
I saw, unfortunately, that fucking art show one like 9 times because of all the bonus features on there that Matt was watching, and I was like, what the fuck is this movie? And you're like, it's an Amityville movie. And I was like, how on earth is this an Amityville movie?
Cursed object. They took it out of the house.
So yeah, I didn't see all 10, but I did catch glimpses of some of them.
Okay. Well, do you have a best and a worst, Ashley?
Moments of Amityville?
You can, do moments if that's what you got.
Or films. I don't know. You guys discuss and I'll think of it.
Okay.
I think for me still, I do like a lot of the later sequels, and I really like Dollhouse, and I like the Art Museum one. I like New Generation quite a bit too. But I think my two favorites in the series are the first one and this one. It's like some of the stuff in the sequels is fun and works and stuff like that. And I could pretty quickly rank them. I mean, I'm like 1, this one, 8, 7, the next one, Awakening, and then the rest are just, whatever. It's probably 6, 3, 2, 4, 5, because 4 and 5 were garbage. But that quickly what I could do here for this. But I like the first two, or the first one and then this remake, probably the two best. And the worst is easily 5. Easily.
Yeah, I think, the original one, this one, I think are my favorite, as in, like, these are actually good crafted films. I think the one where I laugh at the most is Dollhouse. That was pretty absurd. I also watched that at night with a drink in me, and I just felt like I had the giggles on that because it was so stupid. I mean, that was entertaining. I think the most absurd parts is definitely number 4, like with the kid with the chainsaw. That movie's just so bad, but it was pretty funny. I thought the ones that are, the second one is in the middle. It's gross, but it's kind of memorable because it's gross. And the ones that I have no interest in ever rewatching again is The Awakening, Next Generation. No, I don't. Those to me. And 5. 5 is by far the worst. It's so boring. I watched it like, I don't know, what did we do that half a year ago? And I can't tell you 5 minutes of the film.
I mean, nothing happens for most of it. So it's that one. That one is really tough. That one was the hardest to watch. Amityville Curse, ladies and gentlemen, stay away from that one.
Yeah, and I think the two most ridiculous memorable scenes is the chainsaw from number 4, and then the kid's picture from Dollhouse.
Yes. You saw that one.
Oh, the lusting after the mom lusting. Oh my God. I should have did that episode. I have seen it before, but then I only saw like 30 minutes of it when he was watching, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this movie is so stupid.
It's so silly. That would, again, I'd still say of all of them, this would be the one I would screen somewhere, because I think an audience would just get a kick, especially out of that scene with the picture getting closer of the shirtless kid playing basketball. Oh my God, it's wonderful.
And then the most menacing animal or insect of all time, one single wasp.
Oh yes, and also Dollhouse, right? They're trapped in a shed with a wasp, and they treat it like it's the scariest scene of all time, and it's like, just leave. There's one wasp in there. Just go outside. But they treat it like they're trapped with a demon, but it's one little wasp. I mean, that would be me in that situation. I don't like bugs, so I would be freaking out too. But yeah, just walk outside.
Yes. And I always feel sorry for that actress from the 70s show. She goes topless in a movie in the exact same scene where they are terrified by a single wasp. And I wish I could go back in the past.
Fire.
Yeah. I wish I could go back in the past and I would just talk to her and go, are you sure you want to do a nude scene for this?
Yeah, Dollhouse is a blast. I think that's probably the best sequel for sure. Easy the best sequel because it's so fun.
I think it stands out to me because the character, I think it's Doug, the lustful son that she's pining for, that hot piece of ass. He plays like Doug, I think like the dorky guy who works at Quake in Charmed, like the early seasons of Charmed. And like, that is the only reason I looked up and I'm like, what he doing? Like, what's he up to? And then I was like, oh, something is very amiss here.
Mom's horny for the basketball.
When he was playing basketball, I was like, this kid is the least attractive.
And she's having like a fever attack in the bathroom watching him play basketball.
No, she's in the kitchen and her husband's talking to her.
Well, no, but then she goes upstairs and she's like almost masturbating and she's just like, she's like in heat about it. She's like sweating.
That woman was in heat the entire movie. How am I supposed to remember? It's just hard. I think it's really telling that these movies, like, you're like, which ones are your favorite? And apparently I've seen all of them. I just don't know they're Amityville movies because they're not. You know what I mean? To me, Amityville is that fucking house. It's the original one and this one, and those are the ones that matter. You know, like, it just tells the simple story and we don't need the rest. They can be their own random, horrible horror movies, but like using the Amityville name just felt kind of slutty at a time, you know? It was indulgent.
Yeah, they literally have what they call the cursed object section of the movie. That like
why are you not using objects that are defining to the originals? You know what I mean?
Why isn't it like a doorknob cross type thing like they show in this movie? Why is it a mirror or a clock or
why didn't they use the clock?
Yeah, it's not even the clock. It's a cuckoo clock they use.
I'm sorry. Do you remember not Josh Brolin? Goddamn, James Brolin looking in that tacky mirror?
The Tales from the Crypt mirror that's in A New Generation.
Well, I think the most obvious one is, why doesn't someone buy the axe from a flea market that is from the house? Like, that is the most obvious object in the first film. And they just like, no, we're not going to use that. Let's use this random mirror.
Clock, mirror, and dollhouse.
I'm going to make Amityville boat.
Yeah. Actually, the boat's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah, the boat, see, it's also a boat.
And you can now. That's a thing we've seen that this series has, I guess, sort of opened up. People have realized that the Amityville name is public domain because it's an actual house. It's an actual place.
I've seen Amityville Island.
Yes. So there's a bajillion now. Is when they realized that anybody can make it somewhere in the early 2010s. Now there have been a bajillion sort of unofficial Amityville movies like Amityville Island and Amityville Death House and
bad, don't watch
Amityville Haunting. Oh no, Amityville Island is a classic of garbage cinema.
Don't you dare use the word classic like that.
I regret nothing when I screened Amityville Island. I was stoned at my own screening, but I thought it was a good time.
And don't forget about the classic Amityville dildo.
Amityville Vibrator.
Oh, Vibrator. Damn it.
Yes. I haven't seen that one yet. But
yeah.
I got some life still left in me, so who knows, maybe someday.
I'm going to go opposite. Life's too short to watch that shit. I'm not doing it.
Let's watch anything else, you think?
No, I think I do think after this, I am pretty done with the Amityville series. I'm not really going to seek out any of these other backyard Amityville ones that I haven't already seen.
Do you promise?
I promise. I don't have much interest in them. I really don't. I had a lot of interest in doing the original classic series. I wanted to go through the 10 movies that were in the actual series. That was what I wanted to do. And I feel like, for better or worse, I've done it. You know, I've come out on the other end of it. I don't really have any interest in these other ones. Although I would make one, because why not? Anyone can. I'll make an Amityville.
It's the Amityville Museum.
The Amityville Museum.
And I can't wait to find my revenge on you for making me watch this entire franchise. Sure, I've had some good times, but as a whole, I just can't wait. I'm going to be like the murderous Ryan Reynolds. Just, oh yeah, I got a franchise for you.
I can't wait to see what you torture him with.
If it's probably going to have religion or
something.
Yep, because those
you
are
know
the
it.
ones that I can't fucking stand.
Oh my gosh.
We got to learn about God.
If you give me one of those, just know I'm going to watch every one of those movies as baked as humanly possible. So,
I mean, why not?
You got to even it out somehow.
It's the only way to keep sane. Okay, that will end our Amityville franchise. It's been a journey. It's been quite a ride. But before we leave, Ashley, Matt, tell them where they can listen to your smooth sounding voices.
Oh my gosh, if you want some more of this, you can head on over to either Spotify or iTunes. I believe we're on Google Play, all the things. I don't know, like anywhere you listen pretty much. And check out AF High List. We get stoned, watch very prestigious films, and talk about them. We just recently did Tootsie, Stagecoach. We're about to hit it with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We're having a good time over there. So yeah, just check it out.
We're also in the back half of that list.
Oh, thank
so
God.
It's definitely been a better journey now because they're not all these just musty, old, sad war movies. Like now we're finally in a period where we're like kind of talking about the movies that like we like.
It's funny because we're like, oh yeah, we're talking about like the 19th Amityville movie and like, yeah, that's bad. But sometimes watching a dusty oldie moldy movie from like the 30s that you like really just have no connection to is quite torturous as well, even with its prestige.
Yeah, even with prestige, I had more fun watching the Amityville 10 movies than I did Best Years of Our Lives, or what were some of the other dumb war movies that I couldn't stand?
I put them out of my mind as soon as we do.
MASH. Oh, fuck MASH. I hated that fucking movie. Yeah, I've had way more fun watching the Amityville than I have those. But that's the fun of that podcast, is that sometimes we watch movies that are really prestigious and well regarded, and we get stoned and we shred them to pieces.
We shred them because they don't need any more praise. They've gotten that already.
Listen to our It's a Wonderful Life episode where we talk about the ass editing in that movie.
Yeah, because that's what people are concerned about on Christmas when they're watching It's a Wonderful Life.
You know what's funny? There was a podcast that I was listening to not long ago where someone called that one of the most overrated Christmas movies they've ever seen. And it led to a massive argument on this podcast that isn't even about movies. And it was spectacular.
Dude, like, I think people are kind of seeing that. And they, like, when you sit down and you watch the whole way, you're like, wow, this is a pretty miserable fucking movie that has very little to do about Christmas.
Yeah.
So why do we have to watch it all the time? And if you're looking for a good Christmas movie, watch Christmas in Connecticut. It's a wacky fun time. That's my recommendation.
And listen, take a listen to our podcast too. We're not always just shredding the classics. We fall in love with movies like Rebel Without a Cause we just watched recently, and we really, really, really get into like why that movie is considered so amazing and should be talked about still even more. So it's also that too. So check out AF High List on all your things and hear us too just talk about the classics with weed in us.
Lots.
Maybe that's the best way to watch the classics.
It is, because the good ones are even better and the bad ones, you're not afraid to call out their bullshit.
Yeah, Rebel Without a Cause, like we were stoned, but like we were dead silent, like engrossed in it. And then sometimes you gotta really like Stagecoach is not doing a lot. They're in a horse and buggy. We're gonna talk the whole time.
Yeah, I'm not into the ride 'em cowboy westerns, so the horse and buggy westerns as I called them in that podcast. I'm not into those, so we had a lot of tangents and stuff in that one. So yeah, there's some fun roads that our high brains go down and stuff like that. So if you think we're funny, check us out. AF High List on all the things.
So come back next week where we take on another huge franchise. Well, I wouldn't say Amityville's a huge franchise in size. This next franchise is huge in sci-fi prestige.
As voted on by you listeners. You wanted us to do it. We're going to do it.
It's going to be interesting. I know there's going to be a lot of difference in opinions.
Ashley will be back for one of those episodes as well.
Yeah, it's going to, this next one, it's going to be the last one before I have a kid. So it'll be the last one that I'll kind of make sense. Because after that, I'll be sleep deprived and probably just a zombie.
I can't wait for those episodes.
Yes, man, I agree with you. Everything was...
And I'm like, here's why Amityville New Beginning is a really good movie. And I just take over the podcast. 5 reasons why Amityville New Generation is worth your time.
I can't believe only one person downloaded that episode.
Savage.
All right, so remember to be kind.
And rewind.